Northrup. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Going well. How are you?
Doing well, too. This is episode 59. Got a special guest for you guys today, which will be really fun. Kind of out of the box, which is cool. He's got a really cool story. He's done a lot of really cool things in his short lifetime already, so that'd be cool to get you on the show. I know we've been talking for quite a while now about this, and we finally met up at Service Autopilot Conference and said, hey, let's just get this thing done. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jonas. It's a pleasure to be on here.
So those of you guys don't know who Joel is, he is, well, you were a former operator of a lawn care company, right? Out of Iowa?
Yeah.
So you came from the space.
Yeah, in high school, my brother and I started a lawn care company, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So kind of in the Midwest.
Yeah, and now he's the CEO of Deep Lawn, which I use personally. I've used it for a few years. A lot of my friends use it. And it's super awesome. And I thought it'd be super cool to have you on the show. But why don't you just just tell us your story? Like, say, go back to high school days. Tell us how you got into the industry. Kind of take us along your journey.
Yeah. So back in high school, when I was, I think I was like 14 around 14, my brother and I, we wanted to make money. We wanted to save up money during the summers and, eventually save up for college, get a truck we could drive someday. And so we started just going to our neighbors and knocking on doors and asking if they wanted us to mow their lawn. So, a similar story to probably a lot of the folks in the space. I know like Jonathan Potoshnik, he started mowing in high school. So we started a mowing company, and originally it was called Cutting Edge. And then a couple years later, when we became an LLC, we changed the name because there was another Cutting Edge in Iowa. So we changed it to Lawn Tech. And there were a lot of different variations of the company. Originally we were doing all mowing, and we actually acquired a few smaller companies in the area. So we got a little bit of a taste of M&A action. And we were doing, a couple hundred mowing customers. And then we started getting into landscaping and larger hardscape installs. We were doing, $50,000 to $100,000 projects for folks around pools and large retaining walls. I have some crazy stories, some of those landscape projects. We just many different failures, different wins. We learned a lot over those years. We started a dog waste removal company. We ended up shutting that down shortly after. That was not our cup of tea. We started an irrigation division. We did that for a year. We ended up shuttering that. For a while, we started a robotics company. My brother and I started actually building some robots for lawn care. We were a little early at the time. So we ended up after about 2 years of that, we ended up selling that business. We were also an auto mower dealer. So we would have those Husqvarna auto mowers, and we would install those on properties. So we were like the first company in Iowa, maybe the second to do that, one of the first in the country. And so many different, over the years from 2011, really probably started in like 2009. But we became Lawn Tech in 2011. And then all the way through 2019, when we got approached by a few companies to acquire us. And I had graduated from the University of Iowa. I got a computer science degree, focused on machine learning and AI. And that year and the year previous, we had some employee issues. So we were having trouble really hiring really good people. And I was not good at hiring. I probably hired, at this point, 150 people over, in my careers, different companies. And we made a lot of mistakes early on hiring. Now we're a lot better at that. And I focus more on character. That's like the most important thing. Do their values align? But because of those employee issues, we decided to sell the company. So we got acquired in 2019. And since then, I moved down to Austin. Samsung Semiconductor hired me to come in and kind of lead the machine learning AI, kind of bring that to their manufacturing process. So, Samsung Semiconductor produces all these chips that go in all of our devices, devices in Tesla vehicles, in Samsung phones, and many other smaller devices. And they hired me to build out AI products to automatically detect defects in those chips. So I was running that, and I did that for about a year. But on the side, I started Deeplon. I've always been an entrepreneur. Working for a big corporation is not my cup of tea.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not yours either.
No.
I couldn't see you sitting in a cubicle working in a big corp.
Not at all.
Me either. And COVID was going on too, and they were making us wear masks. We were all having to wear masks, sitting at our cubicles. Definitely not where I wanted to be. It was a great opportunity though. And I could continue to develop my skills and all that. Well, so Deeplon, the reason we started Deeplon is to solve some of the problems that we faced. So in the lawn care space, more and more people, when I originally started, very few lawn care companies even had websites. I was kind of early, in 2010, having a website for a lawn care company. It's surprising, but over 50% of lawn care and pest control companies that, in our markets did not even have websites. So, we were trying to be ahead of the curve there with SEO. And what I noticed is more and more people were using their mobile devices. More and more folks are used to Uber and Amazon, and it's these tech companies have become a bigger and bigger part of people's lives. And the consumers out there and homeowners were definitely changing their behaviors. So we wanted to make it super easy for potential homeowners to sign up for services. And we did a few things when we owned our lawn care company, but we never really had a full product because we needed the AI component. So, during my stint at Samsung, I started building out some of our proprietary models, started annotating data all over the country, working with my brother, Rick, and some other folks on our team to start to build these models. And then over the course of a couple of years, we started building out Deeplon, and in late 2021, we launched the product. And since then, it's just been amazing kind of seeing, running a software company, which is, there's a lot different than running a service company or even a robotics company. And, it's been a great learning experience, but we've grown a lot. And now we've been in business over 2 years for the software company, Deeplon. And that's kind of where I am today. I'm in Austin, Texas, so I still live down here. I love the Midwest, so I'm always, just last week I was up for Thanksgiving visiting family. But, I love the snow in small bits, but I love the weather down here and the sun, more importantly.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. We got our first snow last week, so not fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to your auto mowers. You guys are like cutting, like the cutting edge of your industry, right back then. And installing the auto mowers then, what were your thoughts around those? How many did you have? How many properties did you take care of? Where do you think the AI was at that time?
So it was very early, and we ran into a lot of roadblocks. The auto mower was still an early product, and it still had a lot of bugs. Like the mobile app had a lot of bugs. We kind of had a weird business model where we would occasionally sell them to the consumer and allow them to we would do an install fee and allow them to just take care of it. We also had like sort of a service plan where we own the mower and we set it up, and they just have to essentially be on that service plan for a year or two. So I think we started rolling those out on our existing mowing routes. I think we got up to about 50 of them, or 50 properties. Some of them we would take the mower, we'd pick it up, we'd bring it to the next property. So,
Gotcha.
Fairly small scale. But And another person, the guy you should have on, if you've never, I don't know if you've met Joe Langton, you should have Joe Langton on. His company in Chicago, and they're all over the country, in Florida as well. They're kind of the leaders in the space at robotic mowing. And I visited him last summer, and he had, we just driving down the road in his suburb of Chicago, there were hundreds and hundreds of robots mowing all these large commercial properties. And he's found a way to, bring in incredible profits from automowers. And they're a lot more mature now. But the reason we ended up selling that business was because we didn't get the support we needed at the time. Husqvarna was going through a bunch of changes with their geographic regions and their sales reps and customer support in the US. And I think actually I was talking to Joe about this a couple weeks ago. His company was going in Chicago using these automowers, and they were so large at the time. They had quite a few hundred they were purchasing. So a lot of the reps focused on them, and we were an afterthought, and we're not taken care of very well. So,
Gotcha.
It was a learning experience, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you said you also built some robots at that time too? You and your brother?
We started building. So we built, it was a company called Lawn Robotics, and we were doing the installs and the service plans for the Husqvarna robots. But our goal with that was to build a smart spray, all electric ride-on unit. So all of our crews for lawn tech used Z sprays because most of our properties were large, a lot of acre properties for our lawn.
It's the Midwest, right?
Yeah, a lot more wide open, very few fenced in backyards that are smaller than 36 inches. So we use the smaller Z sprays. Well, our intention was to build an all electric version of the Z spray that tracked what was sprayed, when, where, how much. And we got pretty far along with that. I myself am not as technical. I'm good on the software side of things and the coding and the AI. But we needed a mechanical engineer to really help us kind of push that across the finish line. And, we should have, if we were to go back, we probably would have raised some money. It was all self-funded. We just had too much going on. So we ended up shuttering the building that all electric Z spray. And then we ended up selling the Husqvarna auto mower division. So,
gotcha. If you were to get back into the industry again, which we know you probably never will, but if you were to, what angle would you take?
So, I don't know as much about pest control.
Let's just go with lawn care then.
Yeah. Pest control is very appealing to me though, because of the how small the vehicles can be. You can with less capital. I feel like there'd be a return on invested capital. The ROI would be there. But as far as lawn care goes, I would, and I am an advisor to a few companies in the South. So I am kind of helping them, and I have invested in one company in the Houston market. So, but I would say, the focus, if I were to go back into the space, one of the issues that we ran into, and I talked a little bit about this at the Service Autopilot conference, is we were very focused because we were in a smaller city in the Midwest. Cedar Rapids, Iowa only has 100,000 people. Iowa City, maybe 80,000. So they're smaller markets. And so there's definitely a ceiling on how big your company can get. So we started geographically expanding to new markets. But the biggest problem, so one of the problems that we made though, is before we first dominated, we built density in neighborhoods, communities, parts of the city. We started geographically expanding, and we just got too spread out. And
so you expanded too soon.
We expanded too soon, and we didn't have the density. So our technicians were driving all the time. There was just way too much time spent behind the windshield. And as you know, I mean, and you would know this better than I do, but talking with a lot of companies, route density is probably the second most important factor besides pricing effectively. And so our routes were not very dense like they should be. So if I were to go back into it today, I would first pick a fast growing market. I would get into a market like DFW, like, the Houston area, Nashville, parts of North Carolina, parts of Florida. What's great is we have companies in every state except 2 states. So we see kind of which markets are growing fast, which aren't. But I would go into a fast growing market and then I would just focus on building route density in just a few neighborhoods or a few small part of the city. If we tried to go into the DFW market, we would not do all of DFW. We would just focus, say, on Plano or Frisco or, whatever some of the other names of the cities are. That's what we would do. And then try to run small crews, probably, some of these more and more. And I was having a conversation with Joe Langton about this. A lot of these new autonomous mowers and even spray equipment is getting bigger. And because of that, you need a bigger truck and you need a bigger trailer. And before you know it, you're putting $150,000 into each of your crews. And there definitely can still be an ROI, but I would try to keep minimize cost on equipment and, have a Ford Maverick, those size vehicles, Ford F-150, Ford Rangers. I would have smaller equipment and just be more cost effective with the return on invested capital.
Yeah. Would you go the automated mower route?
I don't think the automated, from just talking to folks and Joe, I don't know if the profits are there. I don't know if the profits are there on residential, but they are on commercial. There's great profits to be made on the commercial maintenance with robots. And a lot of these commercial properties, they want to be conscious of the environment. They have ESG scores. So going electric is a huge benefit for them in multiple respects. And if you go the commercial route, it's very profitable. So we would maybe go the commercial route there, and then maybe the residential route for fertilization weed control. So
I like that. Yeah, we actually yesterday got our build date after 14 months for our Mavericks.
Wow.
We've been waiting a long time for them. We finally got the build date yesterday, so that was pretty exciting. So those will be shipped in hopefully by March 1st, so it'll be cool.
I want to buy, me personally, I want to buy a Maverick because they're great vehicles.
They're sick looking. Yeah, they're cool. I like the looks of them. They're front wheel drive. So like for snow for us, it works really good other than a rear wheel drive truck, right?
Yeah.
They're front wheel drive. They're nice. They're very inexpensive. They look great. So yeah, I'm excited to get them. I might just cruise around in one just for fun, just to have it,
Yeah. What are you using now for your cruise or your?
Yeah. So we have, for our pest control, we just use like the Toyota Tacomas or the Nissan NV200s. But at the time when we first started, like right after COVID, we couldn't get new vehicles. So we had to just go piecemeal whatever we could have, which was not what I wanted to do, but we just couldn't get them. So we piecemealed what we could. So we have a little bit of everything, but mostly our NV200s and like a Ford Transit van. And then for our bigger stuff it would be like the ProMaster 2500s for our bigger vans for our fertilization weed control side of things. But yeah, you go buy a new Maverick for $22,000,
I know. And those Sprinter vans, what do they cost now? Like 50, 60K?
Yeah, you can get a nice used one for 40, a brand new one for 50, 60. Yeah. But they're very nice too.
Yeah, those are nice. So towards the end, we were using, before we sold the company the last couple of years, we were using Mercedes-Benz Sprinter vans. And those are pretty costly. We were buying used.
They're like 100 and some now, right? I think.
Yeah. I think brand new at the time, they were only maybe 70K. But we were getting used ones for like 30, 40K. And then we were decking them out with a nice ramps.
The ramps that fold out down in the back.
Yeah. An easy where one person with one arm could easily, assisted ramp. So, and we would drive the Z spray on. And then in the front of the vehicle, we had a tank, a tank system. And then we would have a pallet that would put on top of the tank. So Oasis, I think Oasis Lawn Care in, Cleveland? They're in Ohio.
Yeah, so Oasis Tree and Turf.
Yeah. Rob Reindl, back when Lawnsite used to be the forum to hang out on. I don't know if you ever.
Yes, I do. That's bringing back the old days.
Yeah. In high school and college, and back when, I don't even remember the years, but for a while, there were really good content posts. And people like Rob would go on there and post and help people. And one day I messaged him and I was like, hey, I've seen you talk about your vehicles. Could you just, could we jump on a call? And we jumped on a call, and he probably doesn't remember me, but he helped us build a similar truck and unit to what he's using at Oasis. And it was a good unit, just quite costly,
Yeah. They're really nice. So we have for our larger properties, for our acreage properties, we run the same units, like, ProMaster 2500, 3500 with ramp in the back, fill tank in the front, but we run all liquid. So it's a little bit different. So, and then on the small properties, I think it's like 10, I don't know exactly what they chose. I think it's like 10,000 or 11,000 square feet and under. We still pull hose from, because they figured out it's just faster and easier. By the time you take out the equipment for the smaller properties, you get to the gates, it was a pain in the butt. So the small routes, we just run liquid, pull hose. Bigger routes, we run machines on. Yeah. So you brought up some really cool things though. One was route density, and then you have like the density blaster thing, right?
Yeah. So we spun up another business called Density Blaster.
So that's because, like, you going back to the past, like that's where you say you failed at building out that route density. So you want to help other companies build out that route density.
Yeah. What we noticed is there's not very many tools for service companies to really build route density. There are some out there, and smart operators have, built or put tools together. But, and I know y'all are really good at door to door. You have, you've dominated that. You've figured that out. But, so yeah, Density Blaster. Should I talk a little bit about what that does?
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So essentially with Deep Lawn, we have all this data. We're generating measurements for a lawn, house perimeter. We can pull in a house square footage, how many rooms, all this data. And our AI can generate lawn measurement, driveway, sidewalk, in landscape beds soon. We have all this data, and we can also see where customers are. So we were like, hey, let's build some tools to really help build density. So one of the biggest problems with direct mail is a lot of times it's not personalized. You just get very vague postcards just sent out to a carrier route. So what we built is an easy way to see your existing customers where you already have some density, be able to search a neighborhood or lasso around a neighborhood or a part of a city. And then we've also built some really good filtering functionality. So with our AI, we can filter by, does this property have solar? Is this lot greater than or less than so many square feet? Is this house market value over $500,000 or less, than 250,000? All of these data points. And then you can exclude existing customers or include existing leads and build an audience. Within Density Blaster, we've built Canva-like tools where you can drag and drop and build a really nice postcard. And what's great is you can also pull in variables from your Deep Lawn account if you connect it. So it can pull in and auto-populate lawn square feet if you want that to be on the postcard, or the price for an application. Because based on your pricing tables in Deep Lawn and the AI-generated measurement, it can populate a price. So it's not some generic, you get first application $10 up to the first 5,000 square feet, like True Green does, and then it's always different. Oh, by the way, you didn't read the fine print. That's actually $100 per application. So it can have an exact price. And then better yet, that QR code, you can put a QR code on that postcard. And the homeowner can scan that QR code and it goes right to the e-commerce tool of Deeplan with their address already searched. All they have to do is enter a few details if they're not already in the system, and they can view pricing, add to cart, and sign up. So we're still actively building a lot of tools around that. We want, some of the things that we want to do soon is we want to populate a picture of the measured lawn on each card. Just talking to a lot of these marketing companies, I was talking to Zach at Lawnline. He was like, the personalization of having that measured lawn on the postcard is going to make a huge difference with close rates. And people will be like, hey, that is actually my lawn. This is not just junk mail from Best Buy. So that, and then we're also building out tools for FOMO. We're going to call it FOMOnomics. And we're going to build out the functionality so that we have cohort pricing, or based on the neighborhood, you allow only the first 10 people to take advantage of this discount that's applied, or this discount's only available for the next 24 hours with a countdown on the landing page. So we're doing a lot with that. Also building automations where, say, somebody goes on and orders lawn care through Deeplan on your website. If you have density blasters set up, you can build we're going to set up an automation where all the nearest 10 people, or the 10 nearest neighbors to them that are not your customers, receive a postcard specifically personalized to them. So we're doing a lot with that. And there's a lot of trial and error with some of these FOMO that we want to build out, but FOMO, it does work.
I agree. How much of this is in beta and how much of this is live?
So all of it is live for a select amount of people. So yeah, it's essentially all in beta. We're going to turn this on for open to the public by the end of December. They'll have access to it. We've already, though, tested thoroughly with probably 50 companies now, and sent out like 50,000 plus postcards.
That's awesome. So that was my next question, is like, so they hit and then it triggers the postcard, and then postcards get generated. Typically, how long do you see after the trigger does the postcard show up? And then how do we know as a business owner that they actually hit?
Yeah. So we have the campaign analytics, so you can see where it's at, whether it's being printed, whether it's in progress in the postal service, or it's delivered. So there is that functionality. And then also we're adding the functionality to see every time they scan the QR code, every touch point, if they become a lead from a prospect, to calculate that if they add something to cart. So you'll be able to see that on a per property basis. And then overall campaign analytics, you'll be able to see ROI, your spend, how much revenue it's generated, or, return on advertising.
Yeah. So you guys really thought through this, because as you know, there's other tools out there, but there's a lot of ambiguity, right? You never really quite know when it's going to hit, where it's going to hit, if it hit, you just don't know. And people are like, well, did it actually work? Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we're really trying the tracking, and the analytics is important, because if folks, we only want companies to use it if it brings an ROI. If it doesn't, if there's better efforts, if it's higher return on investment to just do door to door, which you guys have mastered, then just stick with that. Hopefully this is another touch point that can bring a lot of value. And as Google Ads and everything goes up in price, the cost for Google Ads has continued to rise, and it's very expensive. And you're competing with national brands like TruGreen. It becomes more cost effective to do the postcards.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's just another touch point. So let's just say, give these guys an example. Let's just say a customer came in, new neighborhood, they get the postcard, they sign up, and all of a sudden all their neighbors get postcards, or their whole neighborhood. We select the neighborhood, we go in there, they get that touch point. A week later, our door-to-door team shows up. They've already seen us maybe one time from us pulling to their first property. They've seen our trucks, they've seen our lawn signs. Now they see the postcards, and now they see our guys. It's 5 touch points in that first week. So it's highly effective for sure. And I could see that. I could see it being easily scalable.
It's compounding. It has a compounding effect. It may take a little bit to see that ROI, but you will if your team does good work, of course,
And I think that most people just aren't very good at it. So what I mean by that is they say, oh, let's try this thing for a month to see if it works. And if it doesn't work after a month, we'll just get rid of it. Nothing works after a month. Give it 6 months to a year. Go all in on that one thing. See how it does and test the results at the end, especially if they have the ROI tracker built in. Like, that'll be incredible for everyone to see.
Yeah. That was one of the things I would always do in my company is I would, try something out. And then, if I didn't immediately see it, I would be like, oh, should we just, switch marketing efforts? But yeah, you're right. I had to you have to train yourself to really continue in anything. There's pain in adopting a new system or a new technology or new marketing effort. You have to fight through that. And sometimes it doesn't bring value, but a lot of times you'll find ways to make it work.
For sure. I had a question actually in my email this morning for Deeplon. This person wants to know so it's more based around retention. So let's just say a customer were to move to a new neighborhood. Is there a way that Density Blaster can reach out to that person? Like, let's say they had a client that lived in that house and they moved away. Is there a way that Density Blaster can reach out to that one house saying, hey, welcome to the neighborhood?
That's a good question. I do know there's data sources at the moment. I wouldn't say we have that functionality, but I do know there are data sources out there. You can purchase reoccurring. You can purchase every new build or new, if somebody's moved, you can purchase that data. So technically, you definitely could, like via API, you could have a trigger.
I want to know if there's maybe a trigger, if there was a filter or AI tool where they could add that in. It was a great question. I was like, that's a super great question. Like, I'm definitely gonna ask you all that.
Yeah, that is.
Because a lot of time, like your attrition rate, right? Like a lot of your attrition rate is just that, like, especially in the bigger cities, the DFW area or maybe Oklahoma or Florida, like you said, or there's a lot of people moving in and out, that we want to just keep targeting those same homes because they're typically our target audience, right? And just to be the first one there. And the homeowners always say, well, yeah, we'll definitely let them know, but that's the last thing they think about when they're moving.
Yeah, no, they've got more. And with interest rates so high, they're probably more worried about that. I know I'm not moving for a while.
Right. And a lot of people, from what I hear, like are selling their house and just moving into an apartment.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a good question. I was like, yeah, I'll definitely ask Joel that. That was a good one.
That is, with the new builds, you definitely need to utilize our HD imagery. So we pull in near map. That is one thing. A lot of these, or a lot of measurement tools out there use Google imagery, but with fast growing markets like DFW, like Oklahoma City, like Nashville, there's a lot of new developments. So we pull in near map imagery for those areas, and you can utilize it within Deeplon.
Can you explain what near map means?
Yeah, near map. So they're an aerial imagery provider. So they have, rather than say Google has satellites in the air that they pay for satellite imagery to take images from space. Well, near map has planes, and they fly over almost all of the metros in the US. They have about 95% population coverage. They fly every quarter. So every 3 months or so. And that imagery is a lot more up to date. So it's very recent, only a few months old in many cases. And it's also higher resolution because they're flying at lower altitudes, and they have really good cameras. So yeah, a lot of our companies in the fast growing markets like Austin, DFW, Nashville, they're using our high definition imagery for new properties. You were mentioning moving and new homeowners. So that's what triggered that thought.
Yeah, that's really cool information. Thank you for that. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit to where Deeplon came in. So you're at Samsung for a year and you're like, this just isn't quite for me anymore. and you were already building this data set on the back end, right? On your spare time. And then what made you say, hey, like, this is not for me. I'm just going to bounce out of here. How did that take us through that?
Well, really I had started working on Deep Lawn the senior year of high school. So, the senior year of college, not high school. I started thinking about it in high school for sure. My intention when I joined Samsung was always, this is just a temporary. This is a way to, experience what life is like in a Fortune 500 company. It's a new experience. I'm learning. It's a learning experience with using AI in a real life experience.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's the next level.
Yeah, particularly machine learning. That's kind of the AI, this subset of AI, computer vision, machine learning that I'm in. I haven't worked as much with the large language models, natural language processing. I've done more with the computer vision side. So yeah, utilizing that, just a great skills to learn. And then also moving to a new city. It's a big step to take when you grow up in a small city in the Midwest. But I just made the decision. I ran into some roadblocks my senior year of college with building Deep Lawn. And I just, at one point, I just remember just coming to the realization that I'm going to make this work no matter what it takes. I'm going to make this a workable product, even if it takes me, a couple of years, and no matter how much I have to spend to build it. So I kind of made that mindset shift, and then at that point, just went all in on it. So even at Samsung, my a lot of my focus was on Deep Lawn, and I think everybody they have to really have a passion and love what they're doing. And when, compare working at a big corp versus working for yourself, building a product that can help people, that solves a problem, that's where a lot of my enthusiasm was and passion. So I was working on that. And then at a certain point, I just, I had enough saved up where I felt like, I live on a small budget. I don't spend that much money. I live inexpensively. And I was like, I'm going all in. So
that's awesome. And so you ran into roadblocks in your path because you said, like, during your business, like, you want people to be able to sign up for your services like an Amazon. So that's like, you felt that it was missing. Like, I'm going to go make that thing. I'm sure it wasn't easy. So what are some big roadblocks that you ran into, whether it's past or current?
Yeah. Like with software,
I'm sure there's some good ones.
With software, it's different. I've ran into a lot of roadblocks with the service side of things too. With software, you have to really try to think with the end in mind, where you're going, and build for scale. So there were many times, and even some of the algorithms some of the tricky algorithms, there's a lot of nuance to a lot of the product. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. In some cases, me and the dev team and my brother would spend, a couple months working on a problem, only to realize at the end of those couple months that what we built is not going to work. I would be in the shower, just like thinking, or going a long walk where most of my thoughts come from, good or bad, and realize, okay, the way we're looking at this is just wrong. So we just need to go back to the drawing board and think through just, even little things like, how do your pricing tables apply? How do you build pricing tables in the database, and how do they associate with service areas, and how do those associate with measurements and properties and orders and all of that? So, that's a very broad answer, but that's been a reoccurring theme. We occasionally will embark upon a project, and then we have to go back to the drawing board and rethink. Like with Density Blaster, for instance, our first version of the product had, I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but you create an audience, and you would create the postcard and send it all as all on one journey. So we rebuilt that to have audiences separately. You can create an audience, and then you can create a postcard, And then you can generate a campaign, and you just choose which audience you're going to send this campaign to and which postcard template. And then it just simplifies everything. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so like, for those who don't know what Deep Lawn is, like kind of just explain it like in a nutshell, exactly what the functionality does and also what type of service companies can use it.
Yeah. So there's two sides to Deep Lawn. One side is the customer facing e-commerce tool. So, and I'll talk about that. The other side is the internal salesperson, sales team, office staff, generating quotes side of things. So for the e-commerce tool, we allow companies, lawn care, pest control, snow removal companies to create a Deep Lawn account. They define their service areas, where exactly they service. You can get, and I'll talk about geo-pricing in a second, but you can really build and segment how you price based on where they're located, how far from shop, what neighborhood. You can build discounts, all of that. And then you can you can design the branding to fit how your company looks, your colors, your verbiage, all of that. And then Deep Lawn generates a little snippet of code that you can place on your website, and any homeowner that's in your service area can go on your website, not on Deep Lawn. They'll go on your website, turfbadger.com or whatever. They can search their address. They can fill out. You can require that they fill out a few details like name, email, phone number. And then our AI automatically measures that lawn, or some pest control companies just use lot area. Some lawn care mosquito companies, they'll do lawn area. Some companies use our house footprint data for perimeter pest control. We also have house square footage that can pull in, and you can use that for interior pest control. If you're a snow removal company, you can use our driveway sidewalk data for snow removal quotes. So just depending on how you set it up, they can then see pricing and services with descriptions and graphics and however you want those displayed. They can add those to cart, and then they can sign up and pay. So, and that whole process is on your website. It's not on Deep Lawn. And it allows you to compete with TruGreen and make the buying experience a lot more seamless. And there's a study. So I actually just listened to a podcast from Michael Sheridan, I think it is. He wrote, They Ask, You Answer. Are you familiar with?
Yeah.
And he was on the Potomac podcast.
Boardroom Buzz.
Yeah, Boardroom Buzz. You probably know those guys.
Sure do.
So he was talking about how there's a recent study that came out. 35% of buyers want a buying experience without a salesperson. And that's going up. In the millennials, I think that number's 50% plus, maybe 54%. Maybe older folks, that might be smaller. But what Deep Lawn allows you to do is those folks that are ready to buy, that don't want to talk to a salesperson, homeowners can just buy services. And then on the sales side of things, we make it super easy for if you're in the office or you're a salesperson out in the field. You can pull up the Deep Lawn dashboard, log in, and you can search an address, add whatever relevant services, and then send a quote to the homeowner. And that whole process takes less than 90 seconds to get that quote in the hand of the homeowner, or give them a price over the phone. And the point of that product was, back in the day, our office staff, I had one full-time lady in the office that would answer calls. We also had like a flex person. So during the busy season, we would have essentially 1.5 folks answering calls, and I would help too. And a lot of times we could not get a quote in the hands of that customer till later in the day. We'd have to write their information down, add them as a lead in Service Autopilot, and then reach out to them later. But the problem is, a lot of times if they don't get that quote right away, they'd go on TruGreen's website, and they're very responsive. They'll give you a quote right then and there. And we would end up losing potential customers to TruGreen. So So the goal with our internal dashboard tool is get the quote in the hands of the customer right away, so that if they're ready to buy, then you remove any roadblocks to them buying your services. And it's crazy, it's mind blowing how many lawn care and pest control companies out there. They make it very hard for homeowners to sign up. They'll have a form on their website. They fill it. Somebody will fill it out, or even worse, they'll have get an instant quote button. It'll lead to a form, and then the customer fills it out, and then it says, "Oh, we will contact you." So you feel like lied to, and and I know for me, if I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to buy. I've already done, most consumers have already done a lot of their investigation on your website and other websites, so they're ready to buy at that point. And then their sales team will take a couple days to either show up to the property or call them, a couple days later during the busy season or the next week. And, by that time, the consumer's already signed up with TruGreen or one of your competitors.
Yeah. Now I'm going to have a couple of thousand people hitting my website to go check out my form on there, which is funny because we're already in transition, which brings up the next question from Service Autopilot to new CRM. Right now, currently, what CRMs do you guys work with?
So we have integrations to Field Routes, Service Autopilot, Jobber. We also have a partial integration to RealGreen, and a couple that I think that's it. I think those are the main ones. We're also looking at I know the Gorilla Desk team. We're looking at doing an integration with them. They've been reaching out. The Brio Stack team, I think we'll have an integration with them sometime in the next quarter. And those, Spray.io, that's another CRM in the lawn care for lawn care technicians. We're going to have an integration with those folks in their CRM. And then we also have integrations to HubSpot and Salesforce. So we work with a few larger enterprise clients that they've gotten away from, say, RealGreen or some of these other CRMs, and they're using HubSpot to manage or Salesforce to manage a lot of their clients. So we've built out some pretty robust integrations. Service Titan is another one that we're working on now for a few clients. But yeah.
That's really cool. That brings up a lot more questions, like go down a rabbit hole, but first thing I thought of is Chris Marici. He's been on the podcast before, Gorilla Desk, good friend of mine. He's a stud. Highly respect that guy. Next thing is how do you approach those big companies and say, hey, like do you go knock on their doors? You show up at their office? Like, do you get a call? Is it an email? And how did you go through that? Because those are some big CRMs that you're working with.
Yeah, really emailing and LinkedIn. I've emailed some of these companies. Some of these CRMs have reached out to us, but others with Jobber.
Let's go. Yeah, go from the very beginning.
Really, our goal when we started Deeplon was to be CRM agnostic. We do not want to build a CRM. There's a lot of complexity. There are many CRMs out there. There's probably, just in the last 4 years, probably another 100 CRMs have come into the lawn care space. Some of them have failed. Some of them don't work very well. Obviously there's the really good ones like Service Autopilot, Field Routes. Jobber's been around a long time, RealGreen. But it started off with me in the early days, just cold emailing some of these folks, connecting on LinkedIn, sending a message. And then, a lot of them have taken a long time. A lot of these companies at first had never heard about us. So to them, we're just a small fry. But over the course of the last couple of years, a lot of them have started to hear, or our customers have approached them and asked them, hey, can we integrate? We really need this. So, or large enterprise clients kind of force their hand, which helps, they kind of force their hand. Hey, we're not going to use your CRM unless you find a way to play nice with Deeplon, which that's been great for us as well. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. What is the hardest part about getting a customer from the very first part of filling out the form all the way through the checkout? What's the hardest part, do you think?
For a home, for like homeowners on the websites?
Yeah.
So
where do you see the majority fall off at?
The majority of, so what we see from the data I see, the majority fall off a lot of times on the pricing page. So a lot of companies don't set up their pricing correctly, or you can really set up your pricing in a very easy to use format. A lot of times companies will just do the yearly price and there's a price shock. So sometimes we'll see some drop off when they see a price. Oh, it's going to be $1,000 for the year. Typically we say, we suggest put like a per application price or a per month price or a per mow price if you're mowing. And that tends to lead to less drop off. Also, sometimes lawn care companies and pest control companies will add too many services and they'll confuse the client.
Confused, yeah. Too much information.
So if you add, say, 25 services and all of your add-on, 25 or like 5 programs, 15 add-ons, that can confuse the client. Now they will at any point, they can click have questions and give you a call or fill out a form and ask a question. So a lot of folks use that, but that greatly diminishes, and there's a higher close rate when you just keep it simple, have maybe 3 program options. You can add a little tag of most recommended, you're able to do that in Deeplan, recommended or most purchased, make it super simple and maybe add an add-on or 2 or, a couple add-ons.
What do you guys see as a close rate? I know every company is going to be different, but what do you see a typical close rate going through online merchant?
Yeah. So this will vary based on the city and based on community and the company, how they set it up. If you optimize it correctly, typically the first time through, you'll see a 20% of people, the first time they're going through Deeplan on your website, they'll be ready to buy. And then based on how many people, or based on your company, if you guys are able to reach out to those leads, which is crucial. Deeplan is a great tool in your toolbox, but it's not going to replace your sales team. So, and we've had companies do this and then wonder, hey, why don't we have, 50% close rates? Well, you can get to 50, 60% if somebody in your team immediately jumps on the phone, ideally within 5 to 10 minutes, like TrueGreen does, and answers any questions if they do abandon cart. It may be as simple as they were about to check out, they added something to the cart, they got a call, and then, they had an emergency, they had to drive somewhere, they couldn't finish. You want to, while you're at the top of their brain and top of their thought process, while they're thinking about you, you want to try to help close that sale. So companies that do that, we've even seen close rates at 80%. Although I told that particular company, hey, your pricing is probably too low. You shouldn't, if you're getting 80% close rates, there's probably something wrong with your pricing. It's probably too low.
For sure. I think they say that after 5 minutes of not contacting them, you're going to lose about 70% of those.
Wow.
Just after 5 minutes. So it's very important. And I know the answer to this question already too, but just so that the listeners know, they have to put in their data. They have to put in their first name, last name, whatever you set up as email, phone number, before they can get the price.
Yeah. You can, of course, disable that if you want, but we suggest get that information, because then you have some way, if they do abandon cart, you can reach out to them and continue like 20 days to close. You should have some sort of automations,
Yeah. So when it's built, when it's integrated with a software like a service autopilot or pest routes, you can build the integration so they come in as a lead and the automations already start to follow up with the customers, that even though maybe your sales team didn't the first 5 minutes, but maybe your text message went out or your email went out right away too. Yeah.
And then there's, I know your team, you can have like a round robin, it automatically assigns, right?
Yep.
That's all the best sales teams are starting to do that. And So like Senski, for instance, we're rolling out Deep Lawn to the Senski brands nationwide over the next month and a half. And what they're doing is they have sales territories. So based on, Emerald Lawns, the Senski brands, Fit Turf, Blades of Green, they'll have sales territories where specific salespeople cover. And within our geo pricing, you can build those territories, auto assign, whether it's in the CRM or in Deep Lawn, they can filter and see all the leads that have come through and maybe abandoned cart or did not finish. And then those salespeople, they're actually using HubSpot to kind of auto assign, but they're trying to get on the phone. Their intention is an inside salesperson gets on the phone within 5 to 10 minutes, and follows up with them if they do abandon. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like, there's already been so much value brought to the listeners. It's pretty awesome. Where do you see AI taking us in the next 3 to 5 years in our industry, pest control, lawn care? What do you see? Like, you're inside of it daily. So what do you see coming?
Yeah. So I think the large language models are going to become more and more valuable. There'll be more use cases to say ingest all of the data from. I know you and Jonathan talked about this because I listened.
We did.
I listened a few weeks ago when that came out. And
yeah, and like you said, this isn't going to be one of those 3-hour ones, is it?
Yeah, I'm down to talk that long. I don't have as much good info as Jonathan does.
So far, this has been pretty good. So,
I think what he was saying with recording conversations and eventually like feeding all of your data into a large language model to then be an assistant, and eventually, products like Siri, voice assistants are going to be able to help a lot.
Yeah, and I already know someone who's rolled this out. Especially for like after hours, it's a live answer and it's all AI. It's absolutely incredible. And they spent a lot of money doing it, but I've heard it. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I think there's so many opportunities. I was talking to John DeCostmaker at Callboss, and he was talking, I think he wants to utilize some AI, and we were just talking about different ideas. And with their company, they get a lot of, fake numbers or fake telemarketers calling in. And so he's thinking about, or we were talking about ways to use AI to automatically filter if it is, say, a fake prank call or whatever, it's not a relevant customer or lead, then AI could take care of that and then filter all the real calls to real people answering. Like just a simple thing like that would be a great tool. Eventually, like I foresee VR, AR being used. Like if you could see in real time through either goggles or a phone app, you could see where the Deep Lawn measurement covers. You could see notes on a property. You could see parcel boundary lines. Like I know when I used to go out on site, sometimes you would not know where the property goes to. So I could see as computing devices become more powerful, you could see all that through the virtual reality. And then, of course, there's a lot of smart spray technology coming out. Maybe this is less AI.
I have it written down. I have this written down. This is from last year's conference.
Yeah. So there's a company called Optics Technologies. They've built, you should definitely check them out. The owner over there, really, really incredible guy. And they've built some incredible products that track spraying in real time. They've done what we wanted to do at Lawn Robotics with devices. So they can plug that onto a Z-Spray or on the hose reels, and it tracks in real time what's sprayed, how much, and where. And they have a footprint that they can see for proof of work. So if there ever was a dispute, hey, you never sprayed my lawn.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one. Like everyone that listens to this podcast is going to know, like it happens all the time. Oh, you guys didn't do the backyard. Oh, I didn't see your guys. And even though we know we did, and our technician said they did, and there's typically proof there, like they just don't see us show up. We knock on the door. They don't hear us. They're busy down in the basement working. They, just whatever happens. And it's going to be awesome.
That was something we faced, and I've heard just gotten worse. And I don't know if it's just because of our society changing or what it is, but it's gone, that's increased. So the proof of like service and also tracking how much, and then use it as like a learning opportunity. Hey, you're over applying, or hey, you're using way too little nitrogen when spraying the lawn, somehow the mix or whatever. So that, I know there's some other companies coming out like Optics that are going to compete with them. But yeah, they've got a good product. And so I could see a lot of use cases there. And then the cameras, eventually a lot of our equipment is going to have cameras and computer vision, and some really powerful GPU chips on devices are going to get to the point where in real time, it can detect weeds in real time, and it can identify weeds, and it can also tell you where to put with the weed control, or maybe insects, or damage to a tree, or like emerald ash borer ravished eastern Iowa. And I think it was up there too, wasn't it?
It was, yep.
So we did a lot of, years ago, we did a lot of emerald ash borer injections, tree injections. And, with computer vision, today, it's quite possible that it would be pretty accurate to be able to just pull up a camera. In real time, it identifies what is wrong with that tree. And so the sky's the limit there. But
you brought up the VR thing, like, and being on the property, like through VR, and be able to see, like, because you get into dense areas with like dense trees. Don't know exactly where the property ends, but that could drop you down. You could see virtually the VR headset, the whole property, and even the customer. You might be customer facing with a customer at the same time, which is wild to think.
I know there's a company called Compliance View 360, and there's also a company called ProxyPix, and both of those companies have some pretty cool tech where if you need a site audit, they will deploy it to somebody, to one of their gig economy workers. They'll drive by the property, take images, and then those images will be put into a 3D, almost Google Street View, where you can walk the property and see everything. And eventually, those companies are going to have AI built into that, so it'll automatically measure and detect irregularities. So that's cool. And I think that's going to change some things, especially with a lot of these larger commercial landscape companies, like say Yellowstone or Brightview. They would probably have these companies come by and do site audits for commercial.
It's incredible stuff. I guess I never thought in my lifetime we'd be there, and here we are.
Yeah. Things have, even with AI, a lot of it's hype, but there are some big innovations happening. And if you see through all the noise, you can see, and then like savvy business owners that want to solve a problem, they start to connect things in their head, and hey, we could solve this problem if we just put these pieces together. And it's cool to see that. I love seeing that. That's, that gives me a lot of passion for, my job is trying to like solve problems like that and use tech in different ways.
Yeah, that's super cool. What does the next 3 to 5 years look like for Deeplon? What's your vision for it? So
our vision, I would say, the next year or two is just continue doing what we're doing, but just better. A big part of that will be building more relationships with CRMs, continuing to build better integrations so that our data can seamlessly work. And so broaden more and more partnerships. We're doing a big overhaul on our back end this winter. We want our AI to be even faster. We want it to be even more accurate. We want to measure different aspects of a property as well. Like we want landscape beds to automatically be measured. Another thing we may pull in eventually is elevation data. We could foresee, because a lot of these larger properties, the world as we live in is not only 2D. There's a third dimension, elevation. And over a large property, if you're just looking in 2D, the measurement can be off if there's a lot of hills. So we want to bring in eventually like elevation data. And And then, we'll see. We may build some tools, consumer facing. We may go down that road. We don't know yet, but we may build some tools to allow. One thing I've talked about a lot in the past or I've thought about a lot is, could Deep Lawn do something like Angie's List for lawn care pest control companies because of our data? And that's definitely, something I've thought about, but I'm not sure if we're going to go that way.
You're also kind of sliding into some other service lines, right? I know you said you measure up the house to get how many bedrooms and bathrooms, and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that on here, but I figured I'd just bring it up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we spun up a sister company. It's another brand with, slightly different ownership.
There's cleaning companies that listen to this, so I think it's good for them to hear.
Yeah. So a lot of you know Libby Dilution. And I teamed up with her this spring, and we launched the spring-summer timeframe in 2023. It's been a crazy busy year. Lots happened, but we launched Service Cart. So similar to Deep Lawn, although there's definitely some nuances there and differences. We can pull in all of the house-related data from many different property databases like Zillow and many other data sources. And we allow home cleaning companies and organizing companies to sell cleaning services directly from their website. So similar to Deep Lawn, there's also online booking component to it where they can choose a time slot and sign up. And, that company is still early on, but we're building out integrations to Service Autopilot and Made Central. We're working on those. So, and Libby kind of runs that company more. I'm more just behind the scenes working on the tech there, because I don't know the cleaning industry as much as, say, Libby, who's an expert in it.
Yeah. So before I cut you off, you said you have a vision for a density blaster also?
Yeah. So for Density Blaster, we want, I believe that the problem of route density is it's a $1 trillion or hundreds of $1 billion problem. Food delivery companies, Uber Eats, they need route density. Otherwise they lose money. Lawn care companies need route density. Even 1-800-JUNK, they need route density, and they've used Density Blaster in a few territories. So all of these companies need route density. And the goal with Density Blaster, still early on, we haven't even officially launched it to the public yet or done any media. But the goal of Density Blaster is to help build tools to solve that problem, help companies be more, to increase their gross margin, to decrease drive time, and just overall be more profitable, even, say, with fewer customers. So the goal with that, so there's a lot of tools that we're working on, the FOMO part, the cohort rebate, the pricing, the discounts. We're doing a lot with that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You have a lot of books behind you.
Yeah.
I know you post a lot on your social medias. You have a lot of quotes that come from books. I see quotes from podcasts or things that people mention on podcasts that you post that I've listened to recently. Super cool. But what are your few favorite books that you just, whether it's business or not related, and I always ask the question on every podcast, like, good books that you recommend?
Yeah. So I'm a big reader. I think the human mind, especially today, we're constantly inundated with images from Instagram, from TikTok, from everything. I know you're a huge name on TikTok now, so you have to, you're part of that. But
yeah, but I don't watch TikTok myself. I don't.
You don't?
Like, I'm not a scroller.
Yeah.
Like, I have all my notifications turned off. I don't look at it. I don't do nothing with it. I just make the videos. I don't go down the rabbit hole.
That it's better because TikTok the algorithm is so good. It hijacks your dopamine, your serotonin, all of that. It's hijacking. And the human brain, we need, like, I know for me, if I don't read a lot, I can even tell my verbal IQ, the words I use, it all becomes dumber. And so I try to force myself to read more, and my brain works better when I read more. So I love all genres, but I would say my favorite book besides the Bible is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's an old classic. It was written in like the 1840s, but it's a great book on human psychology. And as far as like a novel goes, a lot of the psychologists like Nietzsche even look to Dostoevsky as an inspiration to their psychology, because the characters, he dives so deep into the characters' psyches and what they're thinking. So that's like my favorite book. I also love 0 to 1. If you've read that book by Peter Thiel, I think it's really good for business people to think about that and just and to think about how they can run their businesses differently and just choosing what battles to go into. Because he talks about building a restaurant versus a tech company, or how do you differentiate? How are you unique, and how do you build a monopoly? All that. So it's a good book. Anti-Fragile. Have you ever read that one?
Yep.
By Nassim Nicholas Taleb? That is a great book, and I highly recommend.
Yeah, that was a recommendation from Jonathan.
Yeah, all of Nassim Nicholas Taleb's books, like Skin in the Game, Anti-Fragile, The Black Swan, like those are great.
I think those are like, man, I must have read those like 4 or 5 years ago. Those are great books.
Yeah, the reason I was actually, when I went to college, I was going as an accountant, and I realized it was way too boring. But so I was figuring out, what do I want to do?
I didn't know wrestlers were that smart.
It's hard. Well, it's difficult. It's difficult to do sports, and
I just mean wrestlers in general.
Yeah, most.
You're one of the smart ones, apparently.
I wouldn't say I'm smart, so I'm trying the best I can. Though I think the whole concept of IQ is mostly fake. There's so many different levels and nuances to how smart people are. Nassim Taleb says that IQ is BS in a lot of his books, and I agree. But what was I saying? Oh, I read Anti-Fragile one winter, and after that, I was like, I'm going to get into statistics. And then from statistics, I realized to use stats, you have to really, use in a way that helps a company. You need to know computer science. And then from there, it kind of got me down the rabbit hole of machine learning and AI. So Anti-Fragile had a huge impact on my trajectory.
Incredible. I'll end the podcast with the last question, as always. We went 23 minutes past, and I said you didn't have a dead stop, so it went good. At this point in your life, you're 28, 29, you said?
28, yeah.
Yeah. Which is, you're young, you're doing incredible. Like, congratulations. But what are you most proud of to this point?
I've had a lot of failures, a lot of just failures in business. Many of my early businesses didn't work out. My lawn care business ended up being fairly successful, not what I wanted. I wanted to build a business to get to your size, but I would say just persistence, just having a vision, believing, having faith, which faith is something most people don't have anymore these days. Like, it's very rare for people to really believe in something. The early days of Deeplon, I was not bringing in any money, and revenue was very low. And, just living on beans and rice, just pushing through. But I had the faith, that Deeplon would turn out well and would succeed. And we had, what we built is going to work. And the same with the other companies. So I think just the mindset of maybe this is an overall accomplishment, but I'm glad that I've been able to have faith to make it through the dark days and the good days, and just to keep striving to build a good company.
Yeah, I love that answer. It's a great answer. How much of an impact has wrestling had in your life? Like, you say eating beans or rice, like starving, like, you should be used to that.
Yeah.
But like, just that dedication that you have to have. It's a tough sport.
Yeah, no, I think wrestling is a great sport because it's just you out on the mat, you and your opponent. You're not able to hide. Like in football, you can kind of hide behind the rest of your team. Even in basketball, you can kind of hide or let your teammates take over. But in wrestling, you can't do that. It's just you and the world watching you versus your opponent. So I think that definitely builds confidence and endurance, and just good. It can build good character. And then also just, years and years of a craft. Just, I started when I was three or four.
I weighed 27 pounds, 3 years old.
Yeah. I was a little guy. I was a little guy out there, just like you, and wearing a singlet. Pretty crazy, but just the persistence and just keep at it. My dad definitely helped, because there were many times I wanted to quit wrestling, and we would go and he would get me a smoothie or like a bug juice or a Gatorade and be like, "Hey, you got it, man," and help me in, So yeah, persistence, I think, and just working hard and seeing eventually on a long enough time scale, seeing the fruits of your labor from lifting and working out and sweating, eventually producing a result. I think it's good. I think I'm definitely going to, hopefully someday, my kids will wrestle. That's the plan.
It's fun. It's a lot harder than you actually wrestling. Like, I get more worked up when my daughter wrestles than when I wrestle, or even when I coach. It's tough, but I love every second of it.
I was coaching my little brother over Thanksgiving because he's wrestling up in Iowa when I was visiting. And yeah, I get more worked up and more intense, more nervous, actually. I didn't get nervous going out there when I wrestled, but I get nervous watching him. And
wait till it's your own kid.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's going to be totally different. So
for sure. Well, cool. Again, thanks for your time here. Had a lot of fun. It's exciting stuff coming up in the future. Thanks for taking the time with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Jonas. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.